All right, so everyone holding by this Q&A. Gonna welcome everyone to this Q&A. Now, it's an interesting question. I mean, a lot of interesting questions always come in. There was a question came in that whatever, we're gonna revisit something a little bit, but we'll see it in context. The question was someone said that they were told, I'm not saying anything about conversion. Let's say a person in the process of conversion, right? Should they tell other people they're converting? Right? Should you tell other people because it creates a huge eye in heart? Right? A evil eye. Right? Evil eye, pretty serious thing. We have spoken about it before. I don't want to spend the entire time speaking about it, but basically, an evil eye is where somebody, let's say they do something, I don't know, they buy something nice. They buy a nice car, they buy a nice house, they buy, I don't know, or they're doing renovations or whatever it may be. And they cause someone to be jealous. They cause someone to be jealous, and not necessarily in a bad way, right? Let's say, well, they cause someone to be jealous, essentially. So God looks down and says, why is this person jealous? Like, what's causing them to feel bad? Right? What's causing them to feel bad? Now, if they're jealous because of their own insecurity or other things, and you're not doing anything ostentatious, probably nothing to worry about. Even though the Gemara says, just to, just scare people a little bit, that the Gemara says 99% of the people die because of iron heart. They die because of this evil eye. Okay. Now, some will say, if you don't believe in it, or you don't hold by it, it's not going to affect you. See, by Joseph wasn't affected by it, other things. But what's really the base here? A person, I don't know, does an addition to their house. Nothing fancy. Yeah, and for some reason, somebody nearby, whatever, feels bad. Now, why do they feel bad? Maybe they feel bad because they can't build themselves. They don't have money. They don't have space. Or, I don't know, it could be any number of issues. Now, even if what you're doing is not ostentatious, you need the space. Right? A neighbor had a lot of kids. They added 2 rooms. I don't think anyone was jealous of them. They need space. They just needed more rooms. So you're going to say, okay, so what's the problem? Right? Why should there be an issue? Why should jealousy over here be an issue? So you tell me, well, because you're building, I feel bad. Maybe I want to build. Maybe I should have an opportunity. Yeah, but I can't for whatever reason. Now, what happens? That person's feelings are hurt. Now, it doesn't mean you necessarily did anything wrong. It's just the opposite. You're doing, again, building's a good example. You need space. Right? So why might, do I have to worry for building and I need space? Someone's going to cast this evil eye and I'm going to get judged. So let's say how it works. Right? We'll say how it works here. So what happens? This person feels bad. They feel bad because they can't build. Not because you're doing anything ostentatious. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong. But so mechanically, what happens? God hears the cry of a person. He hears what they say. So what does God then do? God says, well, sounds like they have a complaint. This person's building is causing them pain. They don't just jealousy goes, oh, I want what you want, and this. No, they're in pain. They're legitimately in pain. Okay. So God then says, okay, let's open up their file. Let's open up the person's file who's building and let's see. Let's see what's really going on. Let's see where they're really holding. Now, someone's going to say it's unfair. The only time you ever want your file open and God judging you is on Rosh Hashanah. That no one has a choice, Jew or non-Jew. Right? Most non-Jews not aware of this. They get judged on Rosh Hashanah. Right? They get judged on Rosh Hashanah. Jews get judged on Rosh Hashanah. The whole world in general gets judged. Okay. So you have no choice. Once a year, God's going to open up your file, see where you've been, see what you've done. Yeah, I'm going to judge you where you're holding right now. Right? A lot of factors go into judgment. That's not the purpose here. Right? That's a whole discussion of itself. That's not the purpose here. So now, what does God do? So now God's going to open up your file. He's going to see. He's going to see where you're holding, what you're doing. But why is he opening up your file? Person's going to say it's not fair. Because God's going to now look at what you've been up to with a fine-tooth comb. He's going to scrutinize you because Mr. S is saying, hey, look, he's causing the other person pain. He's causing them pain. So what happens? He says, let's see if the other person has a legitimate complaint. But what's the obvious question? What's the obvious question someone's going to say? Not fair. Why are you opening my file? What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe. Let's say you didn't do anything wrong. Okay. Then nothing will happen. But why is he opening up your file in general? Why is he doing it? Because you caused someone pain. Now the question is, it's causing the pain. Is this a legitimate concern? Or is the person complaining for no reason? Just because you need the space, you're not doing anything ostentatious, and they feel jealous and they feel bad, why is that my problem? I shouldn't be able to build because I need the space. So this shows you beyond the shadow of a doubt, you got to be careful of other people's feelings. True. Very, very true. But the reason he's opening up your file, whether a person thinks it's fair or not, keep in mind, life is not about what's fair. It's about ultimate judgment, ultimate responsibility. The way we look at things, the way God looks at things, two totally different worlds. We mentioned many times, the Gemara in Pesachim says this is an upside down world. Yeah, this is not the real world for sure. Right, where the rabbis goes up to heaven, the Gemara says, what, and the rabbis ask him, what'd you see? So what'd you see up there? He said, I saw an upside down world. I saw the real world, the world of truth. Come back to this world, yeah, it's upside down. What we see, we don't understand. We mentioned this many times. So why does God have to open your file? You're going to say it's not fair. You're going to say it's totally not fair. I didn't do anything wrong. You're right. Let's say. But what's the problem? The problem is you cause someone pain. When you cause someone pain, God's going to say, wait a minute, someone's complaining here. Someone's saying they did something wrong. Caused someone anguish. Let's see if they deserve to be punished. Well, doesn't God know anyway? Sure he does. Doesn't matter. He's going to open up the file. Very good. He's going to open up the file. Now, when he opens the file, and he sees what's deep in a person's heart, let's say we'll make this case very easy. Yeah? They needed more space to build. That is the only reason. The only reason they built. They're not doing it ostentatiously. They're not doing it for any other reason. They're doing it, they need space. Oh, do they really deserve it? This, that. Okay, God's going to look at a lot of different factors. Many, many different factors. Okay? So now the question is, does that person deserve to be punished? So in our case, they don't deserve to be punished. Why not? Because they did it they had good reason to build. Just because you can't build or you don't have the money or whatever, why is that the fault of the other person? It's not the fault of the other person, right? It's totally not the fault of the other person. So it's not the fault of the other person gets off. Because I'm going to judge them in a harsh way. Nothing wrong, nothing will happen. The person felt bad, okay. But the person felt bad for themselves. You were just the one they felt bad because of what you did, but it had nothing to do with really what you did. Again, you built an addition, very good, you need space. Okay. Someone else got jealous, they got upset. You caused them anguish, okay. God says, I don't want people to be in anguish. What's going on over here? Why is this person in anguish? Let me open up their file. Let's see what's really going on. This person gets a clean slate. Good. Yeah. Life goes on. What do we see? Got to be careful of other people's feelings. Yeah, you can't just stomp on people. Just do whatever you want. It's payback. We understand it's payback. But see, when it comes to something like this, we're speaking about an eye and heart, causing jealousy and enmity and causing, people to be upset by what you did. Yeah, how careful a person has to be of someone else's feelings. And there are people out there, they'll tell you, oh, why being so sensitive? I mean, they knock you down. They make you feel bad. How do they blow it off? Why being so sensitive? I didn't really mean it. I was just joking. Yeah. But they hurt a person. They made them feel bad. Now, could a person be overly sensitive? Yes. Would a person have to work on that? Sure. That doesn't give the right to the other person to knock them down. Not in any way, shape, or form. You got to be careful. We want to be careful what other people think also. Orthodox Jew walks outside, you got to be squeaky clean. You got to be very careful. You don't want to cut anyone in line, cut someone off the road. You visibly look like an Orthodox Jew. It's desecration of God's name. Not in the technical definition. But it makes all Jews look bad. People are going to say, oh, look, see, he got in line. Right? Makes everyone look bad. True. Right, someone just told me the other day, being a Jew is an awesome responsibility. You're right. How Levi, Jews should think it's an awesome responsibility. They're born that way. It's a huge responsibility. 100%. 100%. And when there's huge responsibility, there's payback. You want to be close to the king, there's payback. Right? You're not a potato farmer in Idaho anymore. No offense, anyone's a potato farmer, grew up in Idaho. Meaning you never knew anything about nothing. God will judge with you in a different way. Now that you want to be close to the king. Right? This is what the Korban Aron says. By the Or Chaim HaKadosh quotes the Korban Aron in Leviticus chapter 10. By the sin of, by Leviticus chapter 10, by the sin of Nadav and Avihu. He says, why they die? A lot of reasons the Gemara gives, potential reasons why. Says the Korban Aron, as the Or Chaim HaKadosh quotes him, they're very close to the king. Extremely close to the king. When you're very close to the king, guess what? A minor messed up, you get burnt. You get burnt. Potentially get burnt. So God deals with the person in a different way depending where they're holding. If the most important question they ever ask in their life, I put mustard, ketchup, or relish on my hot dog, God will deal with you one way. But if you're holding somewhere in the world, and you're thinking, you're working on yourself, you're trying to fix up character traits, this and that, God's gonna deal with you in a totally different way. Totally different way. You got greater responsibility. You like it, you don't like it, God's gonna deal with you in that way. Much greater responsibility. Much, much greater responsibility. So whatever we do, we gotta be careful. We gotta be careful of other people. And sometimes we step on people. We don't mean to. It was never our intention. Yeah. I'll tell you, anyone who ever starts up with a widow or an orphan, what does the Torah say? Who's going to fight up for them? Who's going to stick up for them? Right? A widow doesn't have a husband. Right? Orphans don't have a father or a parent. Right? At least one parent. The Torah says God himself is going to start up with it. Never good. Even if you think you have a right to start up with somebody, whatever, do not start up with widows or orphans. Or converts. Same thing. Shouldn't start up with them either. God's going to fight their battle. Playing with worse than fire. So that's a little bit of background. So now the question is, okay, let's get back to the original question here. Someone said they were told they're not supposed to say anything about that they're converting. Right? Creates a big eye in heart. I don't know why it should. It's a different issue. Some people may not say they're in the process of conversion or this and that. And it might be hard. It might be very hard to hide. I mean, obviously, if they're in skin color or whatever, everyone's going to probably know. But why would people hide it? Not necessarily because of Ein Hara. Why would people hide it? Because they want to be judged like everybody else. Because they feel they're going to get judged in a different way. Maybe they're going to be judged like second-class citizens. Not going to be taken so say, oh, just a convert, or just potential convert, or whatever. Yeah. How many times it says, by a convert, you can't taunt them, can't cause them aggravation. Many, many, many times. And a person who does that, who fights their battles? God does. Never good. So I can understand they want to hide it. Let's say they have kids and they want to marry them off and this and that. It might be harder if they're a convert. People know the converts. Okay, I understand that. I'm not saying it's right. Definitely not saying it's right. I do understand it. Now that being the case, that being the case, I wouldn't say it's because of Ein Hara. Right? I don't think it has anything to do with Ein Hara. Remember one thing. Someone who's in the process of conversion, whatever that means, they start taking classes, they're accepted by a rabbinical court, they feel they want to go through this process to convert, right? Let's say. Or Baal Tshuva is coming closer to Judaism, right? A Jew coming closer to Judaism, no different. No different in that sense. God looks at you in a totally different way. You're not a potato farmer in Idaho anymore. You have a higher realization, a greater realization. You have all the desire to draw close to God. Very good. It could come at a price. It could come at a serious price. Now, someone will say, I had a friend of mine once tell me, he says, those better be ignorant. God won't judge me as harshly. Also wrong. Why? Because when God looks at you, he's going to say you had greater potential. So if you had greater potential, it's not going to help you either. Right? Famous Medrash. Medrash says the fisherman gets up to heaven. What's the first thing a person gets asked after they die? Right? Difference of opinion whether one holds whether you're asked, did you learn Torah? That's going to be one question. Some say the other question is going to be, first question you're going to get asked is, we're honest in business. Regardless. Fisherman gets judged, or is going to get judged. God says, did you learn Torah? says, no, you didn't give me brains to learn Torah. Right? So God says, I didn't give you brains. You didn't have brains, you couldn't learn. It's impossible for you to learn. He said, yeah, that was his excuse. You didn't give me brains. Right? Straw man. Wizard of Oz doesn't have brains. Tin Man doesn't have a heart. Okay, you weren't given brains. Wizard of Oz. Yeah, you weren't given a brain. God says, let me ask you, how'd you make a living? How'd you make parnasa? Or that, what did you do? He said, I was a fisherman. Very good. So how'd you make parnasa? How'd you make a living? He said, I make these nets. I used to go out early in the morning. I used to do this, do that, trap all these fish. That's how I made a living. That's how I was able to support myself. So God says to the fisherman, very good. He says, I bet the same God who gave you brains for that, to be able to make a living, probably gave you brains to learn Torah also. Check, mate. Nasty. Yeah, think you got the greatest excuse in the world. Come on, I couldn't sit and learn. All right, did you ever try? Other things, physics, this, that, you could do. That you had brains for. This you didn't have brains for. Did you really try? Did you make an effort? Gemara said, they don't want to make an effort, you're going to get credit here. You got to make the effort. Not going to be given to you necessarily on a platter. You got to work. Right? So someone who's a convert or a potential convert or about tshuva or whatever, not a question of, oh, don't tell anyone because it's an ayin. All right, there are other reasons. You know, a person wants to get married, maybe. Good reason. I'm not saying it's right. Could be other issues as well. Ayin hara, I would say no. But who's going to be jealous? Right? If ayin hara is really all about jealousy and causing someone to feel bad, who's feeling bad for a potential convert? JIT, I would call them. A Jew in training who's coming close to the Torah mitzvahs and wants to convert. Who in the world feeling, jealous of them or feeling bad because of them? I don't think they're feeling bad. They're going to think they're crazy. You want to take on all these mitzvahs? Don't you know what the Jews have gone through? Don't you know what Jews have gone through? Don't you know what we're going through right now? Anti-Semitism up to gazoo. Jews have been gassed, burned, this, that. You think people are going to be jealous? I don't think people are going to be jealous. They're going to say, you want to be part of this people? You're a little bit wacko. That's what they're going to think. It had nothing to do with jealousy. Yeah, nothing to do with ayin hara. Yeah, so the answer I would say is that, a person should hide because of ayin hara. I don't think it's because of ayin hara. I can think of other reasons, not because of that. Anyway, that's the short, long answer. But I'll mention one other thing. That's why I'm on this. Even if we know we're going to get tossed around in this world, we're going to be held to a higher standard. Let me ask the $1 million question. Well, actually, I already asked that. $1.5 million question. Yeah, we'll up the ante. $1.5 million question. Even if you're going to get judged at a higher level, and you're going to get scrutinized for your actions more than anybody else. And you're going to say, tossed around, and this is hard, that's hard, it's not fair, this, that. Okay, let me ask a question. Would you rather have fantasy? Rather be like all the Christians, don't know anything? That know zero? Less than zero? What do you want to be like? You want to live your life having meaning, not pass the buck. I could just, rely on someone else who can take all my sins. I'd love that. That'd be awesome. I'll take all my sins, do whatever I want. Few Hail Marys, pay off the church a little bit. Very good. That'd be awesome. Yeah. Called pass the buck. Called not taking responsibility. Opposite. Total opposite of what Judaism is. Judaism is the ultimate about taking responsibility. You know what? There might be a serious price you might pay. There very well be. But let me ask the question again. $2 million question. What would you rather have? Fantasy, which most people want, or the ability to be part of the real deal? That everyone's going to ask. But once the person starts coming closer, the way God deals with you, and this is what everyone has to understand, and that's why anyone in this process, whether about tshuva or not, or potential convert, the beginning and along the way, you get tossed around. Things that you never expected happen. And life becomes seemingly unbearable. All of a sudden, it was my job. Livelihood becomes very hard. Family relationships become very hard. Never had problems before. People look at me differently. This, that, a lot of things. Someone will say, I didn't sign up for that. Not a question whether you did or not. The reality. Right? What's the reality? The reality is the closer you are to the king, the game changes. Their responsibility for my actions are much greater. Think about it. You're a potato farmer in Idaho. Again, no offense to anyone who's a potato farmer, grew up in Idaho. Right? You're a potato farmer in Idaho. You don't know nothing from nothing. You don't know nothing from nothing. How's God going to treat you? Totally different. Now you want to start to learn, start changing character traits. You're in a different planet. You're in a different plane altogether. The stakes are much higher, much higher. You say, God can have mercy, there's repentance, okay. But think about it when you're close to the king. If the mail carrier did something wrong, you think the king cares? No, tell one of his lackeys take care of it. If the second in command to the king did something, king's gonna deal with it himself. You look a little bit better without a head. Much greater responsibility. I would say that even, life got you down and life is hard and this and that thing. I got an opportunity every day to make the scale go up or go down, right? The Rambam says in the laws of repentance, every city, town, state, country, continent is a scale, right? Good deeds, scale goes like this. Bad deeds, scale goes like this, right? It's always going up and down. Says the Rambam, whatever I do right now can tilt the scale either for good or for bad. And if it stays down on bad long enough, God goes, okay, I'm going to come wipe it out or cause a tsunami or who knows what, based on what I do. So I ask you the $2.5 million question. How many people live in their lives like that? How many people are calculating every last single thing they do? I'm not going to answer. That's what we should do. That's what the Rambam says. Right? Laws of repentance. Much, much greater responsibility. And a person can say, I'm an infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust. I grew up in a small town, in a city, in a state, in a country, right, on a continent, on a planet, in a galaxy, getting smaller. What I do really matters. This is what Pharaoh said. Others said, come on, God's too lofty. He's too busy with black holes and keeping the universe together. He's got his other lackeys to do stuff in the world. Matters what I do? Sure, it matters what I do. Has an effect in the world. Problem is, we don't take ourselves seriously. Or we have no self-esteem. We say, it doesn't matter. What I do is not going to matter. It's not going to imprint anything. I'm just a nothing, nobody, this, that. Right? Person's going to have zero self-esteem. If you're part of the Jewish people, and even if you want to stay in awe, it doesn't really matter. Jewish people cut above. We're not saying we're better. We're chosen. God chose us. We chose them. Non-Jews are disadvantaged. Ramchal says that explicitly, Derech Hashem. Non-Jews are at a disadvantage. That's the same aspect of the soul. What makes us different? What makes the Jew different? He's a Jew. You're going to say, oh, you think you're better than this and that. Why? Why does it make us different? We have a lot more mitzvahs. A lot more mitzvahs. So therefore, the repercussions of what we do are much greater than anybody else. Much greater. Can a non-Jew have a portion of the world to come by keeping what they need to keep in the no-hide laws? Yes. Is it going to look the same as a Jew? No. We have a lot more mitzvahs. A lot more mitzvahs to do. And stay away from. And negative things to stay away from. So exponentially, we'd be on a higher level. Could a non-Jew be on a higher level than a Jew? Yeah, they do what they need to do, and this Jew's not doing anything. Can happen. Definitely can happen. Yeah. In many cases, I'd say it's almost improbable because we got a lot more to do, a lot more things to stay away from. So, if that's the case, we'll get rewarded or punished exponentially. I mean, a non-Jew can't have a portion of the world to come. I'm just pointing out the huge responsibility. And a lot of people out there would say, I'm happy with fantasy. I'm happy with fantasy. It's what they want. They want their desires and do whatever they want. Not only that, they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told what they're doing is wrong. Nobody wants to hear that, but okay, is the Torah true? If the Torah is true, there's the right and wrong way. And I got to be the best I can be. But look at the standard that's being set. This is a huge thing. This standard a person can reach or potentially reach. Got to work hard every day. What I do matters. I could bring, not me, someone else could bring about destruction of their state, city, town, or whatever. Themselves. By what they do in that split second. That's huge. Why do you think Christianity is such an appeal? Hey, I got a lot more money and this and that. But what's the big appeal? Even though all of it doesn't make any sense. What's the big appeal? Pass the buck. I don't have to take responsibility. That's a huge appeal. Huge. We'd have to take responsibility. Do whatever we want. Do exactly what we want. No one's going to say boo. That's it. So yeah, see a lot of questions here. Okay, someone asks, during the 9th plague, 80% of the Egyptianized Hebrews died. Okay, before redemption, meaning Rashi says only 20% of the Jewish people came out of Egypt. True. 80% died, not during whatever. It was over time. It was over a longer period of time, but that is true. Now, the Arab were allowed to leave, and even President Mount Sinai. Okay. Does that mean the Arab had more merit at that time than 80% of the Jews that died? What do you think the answer is? God, whoever the Arab was, the mixed multitude, the converts either came out of Egypt or other places, right? Difference of opinion who the mixed multitude were. 80% of the Jewish people didn't come out. Yeah. So many of them didn't come out. Why? They didn't want to go out. They're going to say, how can they not want to go out? Imagine you're living in Auschwitz. You don't want to leave? You don't want to leave? Moses like, come on, let's go. We're leaving right now. Everyone's going. Where's he taking them? To a desert. Anyone ever think it's going to be an oasis in the desert? What are they going to do? There's no food. How are they going to live? How's it possible they're going to live? So many said it's going to be crazy to leave. And after they do leave, they don't have water. Right? Read this week's Parshas, they complain. You took us out in the desert to die, but they were the 20% that survived. Thank you very much. But they complain. They still had a merit to come out. So that's the question a little bit different. The Jews that didn't want to come up, they weren't interested in leaving. Let's say because they lacked emunah. One possible reason. They didn't have enough emunah. Now, even if that's true, let's ask like this. If they didn't have enough emunah, they didn't get out, or they weren't allowed to come out, Does that make the mixed multitude better than them? Yeah. So what would be the answer? Right? It's a good question. So simple explanation you could say is the fact that they were there, they came out, they had a merit to come out. Mixed multitude had a merit to come out. Because they wanted to join the Jewish people. Very good. The Jews themselves didn't want to come out. Either Amunah issues, other issues, they did not have the merit. So simple explanation is they're on a high level. They had a merit to be redeemed. Jews didn't have a merit to be, those Jews did not have a merit to be redeemed. For whatever reason. Right? It really doesn't matter the reason. Right? They didn't have a merit to be redeemed. Could be a lack of Amunah. It could be other things. But consider one thing. We're talking about the Erev Rav and all the problems with the Erev Rav. They made the sin of the golden calf. Changed the course of history. Which we're paying for collective punishment, ever since. Because God said, if I dwell amongst the Jewish people, I'm going to kill them all. So Moses says, fine, we'll make a compromise. Yeah, instead of wiping out all the Jewish people and starting with me, take it out in every generation. So a person will say, why do that? That's not fair. Why do that generation have to suffer? Right? Why are the generations going to have to suffer? Good question. Right? We're not going to go there. But you see, they cause serious problems down the line. So everyone looks at the Erev Rav like these terrible people. What they did is that true. But think about it. The entire world, however big it was at that time, heard what happened in Egypt. The entire world. How come you didn't have masses of people want to join the Jewish people? Jewish people, through God, obviously, decimated Egypt entirely. Livestock destroyed, food supply destroyed, plants, this, that, the whole place destroyed. They took the entire wealth. Imagine the world power on their knees. Decimated. Wouldn't people say, wow, that's people I want to join? Look at all those miracles that happened that they heard. Okay. Where were the masses? Beginning of Parashat Yisro, says Yisro heard. Right? It says he heard the war of Amalek, and he heard the war, and he heard about splitting the sea. He wants to come to join the Jewish people. Didn't the whole world hear? Right? That's the question. Didn't the whole world hear? Of course the whole world heard. So why is only Yisro heard? Why is the only Yisro heard? Because Yisro was world famous in Midian. He tried every idol that was out there, worshipped them, very good. Came to the conclusion this is the real one true God. He internalized the message, and he's the one that changed and wanted to be part of the Jewish people. The whole question, he come before the Torah, after the Torah, the whole discussion. What happened to the rest of the world? Where's everybody else? Where in the world is everybody else? All of a sudden they got amnesia? Where did they go join? We have a statement. Ain't doing Maria Lishmiya. There's no comparison to someone who sees something with their own eyes and you hear something. Right? You hear these stories. Oh, cattle died. There was vermin, there was boils, and there was this. They hear stories like it sounds like unbelievable. Science fiction. Sounds science fiction. They weren't there. They didn't see it. But you got to tell me the ones that did see it didn't affect them in such a positive way. All of them. True. Right? Okay. So what's the common denominator? Well, we'll hit this question now also. What's the common denominator? Common denominator is they didn't internalize the message. They didn't internalize the message. So if you don't internalize the message, God shows you a miracle right in front of your face, ain't going to change you. Why not? Because you don't get the message. Someone came to the Brisker Rov, a blessed memory. Someone came from America and said, if there'd be more open miracles, a lot of people would repent on the spot. Comes on the Brisker Rov. Brisker Rov says no. The only people who are going to change are the ones who are a vessel for change. If a person's not a vessel for change, they're not going to change. Even with all the miracles. Even if there are 100 miracles God does right in front of their face, if they're not a vessel to change, it's not going to affect them. Those hands must have been mirrors, must have been this. 39 Scott missiles don't hit anything. It could happen. It's 1 in a billion chance. This, right? They can make up their own agenda. Totally make up their own agenda. People can see, like someone told me, said, you want to know why I became religious? That's not the question. The question is, why did my siblings, we saw the same thing, why did they become religious? Two people see the same thing, go in different directions, different conclusions. So says the Brisker Rov, you got to be a vessel. You got to be holding somewhere in the world for it to affect you. And for someone that's holding nowhere as a potato farmer in Idaho, not going to affect them. Even if God would reveal himself today, do an open miracle, ain't going to affect people. Most people. In the end of days, right? We'll give an example. In the end of days, when the Messiah is going to be revealed, everyone in the world is going to agree it's the Messiah. As the prophets say, who's going to announce him? Elijah the prophet. It's one of his jobs. He's going to announce coming the Messiah. Very good. But then everyone's going to try and kill him. Yeah. Everyone's going to acknowledge he's Mashiach Hashem. He's the one anointed for God. He's going to take care of this mess in this world. Can't have that. Got to get rid of him. The world's going to know God, the ones that survive. The ones who do not want to know that, they're going to get wiped off the face of the map. That's why in Israel it's a polarity of extremes. Right? You got, the greatest amount of Torah being learned, strongest amount of Torah being learned. You got devil worship. You got people fighting Torah. You got people trying to stop a Yom Kippur service. That's how much they hate God and religion. It's a place of extremes. Can't have holiness without that, without impurity. Some people from another question. Some people from Chabad say we can pray to dead people. Ask them and intercede. No, you can't. That is idolatry. Person goes to a cemetery and not praying to a dead person. That is forbidden. That's idolatry according to everyone. The only question is, how can you ask someone who's dead to intercede for you? Isn't that idolatry? So you're asking in their merit. You're not praying to them. That's idolatry. Yeah. So you're asking in their merits that they should have positive influence for you. You want to, the question is, can I confirm or deny the validity? They have no validity in their claim. I don't hear any validity in their claim. Who says you're allowed to pray to the dead? Right? The whole thing that they, that some claim that, that the Rebbe is the Messiah, even if he's dead, it's based on misinterpretation of the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the end of Sanhedrin. So if a person, if the Messiah is going to come someone who's dead, he'll have these certain character traits. Right? It'll be like Daniel, have certain characters like him, like other people. that died. Very good. Doesn't mean he's coming back from the dead. It's a really gross misinterpretation. Yeah. So, so at the end of the day, at the end of the day, can the Messiah have character traits of great prophets and this and that? Sure. That have passed away. Yes. Is that prophet coming back to life? Or is that great person coming back to life to be the Messiah? No. Right? The Rambam states that clear, made a mistake. Rabbi Kiva made a mistake by Bar Koziva, or Bar Kokhba as he's known. He thought Bar Kokhba was the Messiah. What happened to Bar Kokhba? Everybody knows. He died. He got killed. So Rabbi Kiva made a mistake. He said he thought he was the Messiah. Comes on the Rambam, and the Rambam Paskins there. The Rambam says one of the things the Messiah can't do is die. Now there are two Messiahs: Messiah of Joseph, Messiah of David. Messiah of Joseph, there's a question if he's going to die or not. That's unresolved. Will he die? Won't die? Nobody knows. He could die. Messiah of David can't die. He cannot die. If someone claims that, they come from the Davidic line and they're the Messiah, whatever, they cannot die in the process. They may die in the end, after everything's done. Everyone's going to die eventually. But he ain't dying in the middle of the process. Certain things got to do. Got to bring in all the Jews. Has to build the Beis Hamikdash, build the temple. Right? Certain things got to do. And if he doesn't meet it, he can't die. If he doesn't meet the character traits, if he doesn't meet the criteria, what happens? He can't be the Messiah. There's certain criteria. So, if they are going to clearly say you're allowed to pray to the dead, that's a problem. That is a problem. You're going to say, why isn't that idolatry? Who says not idolatry? It's idolatry. If that's what they're saying. If they're saying the merit of the person can intervene for you and this and that, you're not praying to them, that's not idolatry. That's a different issue. Depends what they say. If what you're claiming they say, that's idolatry. That would be clear idolatry, if that is the case. My Rabbi would say, I still think till this day. A lot of people think that, those who believe that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is still is the Messiah and this and that. A lot of people, a lot of great rabbinic authorities hold it's idolatry. Right? Clear, it's idolatry. Rabbi holds it's not idolatry. Why? He said they got a messed up philosophical outlook. He holds it's not idolatry. A lot of people would disagree with him. And a lot of people would say, if they believe that the Rebbe is the Messiah, and they kill an animal, you can't eat it. Even if they do it with all the stringencies and whatever, you can't eat it. Yeah, he claims they have a messed up philosophical outlook. Could be he's got a soft spot for them, I don't know. But a lot of rabbinic authorities, I'll tell you, will totally 100% disagree. Yeah, they'll disagree that these messianic, Lubavitchers is idolatry. Total idolatry. I think they do a lot of good work. Got a lot of respect what they do. This is an issue. This is a very serious issue. Right? No question. Somebody asks, what's the difference between kfira and abikorsis? Abikorsis, let's start with kfira. Kfira means literally you deny. What do you deny? So kfira could be you deny the Torah comes from God. Or you deny that Moses is not the greatest of all prophets. Or all the Torah is true, but not a One verse is not. So abikortis is really a similar thing, right? It really, both, we look at it in a similar term to say it's really both mean heresy. Essentially, you don't believe the Torah is true, you don't believe what the rabbis say, or or the prophets, or whatever it may be. And isn't that heresy? Sure. Isn't that abikortis? There's different levels, right? And maybe one day I'll go through them. The Rambam, the laws of repentance, has a whole list. He has a whole list. Amen. Amen is called a heretic and abikortis. Yeah. So amen can also be an acronym. What can it be an acronym for? Meyeshu anoitzer. From JC, but they couldn't use his, the Gemara was censored, so they couldn't use that. Because obviously they're going to say negative things about him. If they're gonna use, say things against him, then they changed it. Right? They in other words, instead of saying that instead of saying Me'eshu Anoitri, which would get censored because it's gonna make him look bad. Yeah, so instead they changed the wording. Call him a min. Right? Call him translates as an apostate. Translates as a heretic. Not because. Right? So the Rambam has a list. Yeah, he has a list in the laws of repentance. Right? There are different levels. I'm not going to go through them now. There are different levels. I'll tell you what the Gemara says. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, who's an abikoros? Who's considered an abikoros? Know what we're saying now. You deny Torah. You deny Torah comes from heaven, and verses are not from heaven. This, that, whatever it may be. And abikoros is somebody who says, "Mahani rabbanon." But the rabbis help us over here. Bunch of sponges, parasites. They don't do anything for the world. That's an abikoros, according to the Gemara. Some people would say an abikoros is also a specific definition that everything else, you deny Torah, you're a kofar. You're denying Torah. An abikoros means, according to some, you have to know the entire Torah to deny it. You have to know something. So that is also a difference of opinion. Because some will say, even if he doesn't know anything, he's still an abikoros, right? Or do we say, no, you really have to know something to be a heretic? I had once somebody becoming a Reconstructionist rabbi, whatever that means. Yeah, and they come to Israel for a few months. Hebrew University, taking classes in Kabbalah. Okay. So the person says, well, if I'm going to be an abikoros, i.e. a heretic, it's a big thing, be proud. To be a heretic, I might as well know what I'm being a heretic about. So what's the joke? So the joke is, by the conservative movement, they never learn the topic themselves because they don't know how to learn. They've never really properly learned. A lot of them. So I said, oh, so you're learning about it, the history? It's like, no, all about the 10 spiritual worlds and this and that. So he's like, well, what do you think about that? So I said, well, Madonna or calls herself Esther, right? I said, she never learned the alphabet. And she thinks she's learning Kabbalah. So I said, if she can learn Kabbalah, you can also learn Kabbalah. So I said, They're like, oh, that's funny. I said, yeah, but I wasn't joking. I said, you've never learned a tractate of Talmud in your life. You never learned really anything in your life about Torah, like real Torah. You want to tell me you're learning Kabbalah? Go learn Torah. Then you get back to me about Kabbalah. Somebody like that, they deny Torah, they, deny all kinds of things. Is that heretical? Sure. But is that heretical in the sense they really know? They've really investigated? No. Doesn't mean it's not heretical. Right? There are different levels. Someone asks, what is Shovavim? Shovavim, right? When we start with the book of Exodus, right? We have a number of parshas that the initial letter of the parsha spells out the words, Hebrew word, Shovavim. Yeah, Shmos, Ve'era, right? Shin, Vav, Parshas Bo, right? Which we just read. Then you get another base for Bishalach. Yud is Yisro, Mem is Mishpat. Right? So you have all these parshas. Right? All these parshas. So they're looked at as days, fasting, days of atonement. A lot of it really has to do with, with Kabbalah, so to speak. Kabbalists have, they have, a lot of prayers during the week. They fast, do other things, right, during this time. So most people are aware, it's a time for, it's a special time, fix up bad character traits. People learn, certain parts of Yeridea, talk about family purity laws, right? For, obviously, fixing up any of those sins, so to speak. Interesting enough, the word Shovavim in general, where is it found? Found in Jeremiah, chapter 3, verses 14 and 22. Right? What's the language? Shuvu bonim shovavim. How do we translate it? In general, return backsliding children. But really, wayward children, troublemakers. What's the prophet telling us? What's he telling us? We're not doing what we should do. So it's a period of intensified repentance. Rectification, personal shortcomings, as we mentioned before, particularly those of sexual nature, unclean thoughts, lacks in laws of family purity, person's married. That's what it is. Another explanation is why does it fall during the winter, right? During the winter solstice, because the days start to get longer. We have a Gemara in Avodah Zarah 8:8 says, Adam sins and he saw the days were growing shorter. And what did he fear? He brought about the end of the world. But once the winter solstice passed, days started getting longer. He thought that was nature, right? That was the natural order of the world. So increasing daylight can be an auspicious time. But interesting, someone's going to say, but okay, it's in Kabbalah, where else? Do I find it in the Gemara? Nope. Medrash? No. Code of Jewish Law, Shulchan Aruch? No. The Rambam? No. Found in a 15th century work called the Leket Yosher, where it's discussed about fasting on Thursday of these weeks in a leap year. really for 8 weeks rather than 6. Right? Some people fast just Monday and Thursday. Not just during this time, but all year round. So the first idea is what is, is fasting. Yeah, there are people, some people that'll fast on a Monday and a Thursday. Right? So there you have fewer daylight hours, a little bit easier. Some people don't speak. They take what they call a tinus dibor, a fast from speaking. Really, some people do that on Shabbos because you can't fast. You're not allowed to fast in general. They don't talk except for words of prayer or words of Torah. Again, a lot of it is about Kabbalistic prayers during that time or whatever. So that in general is what it is. Someone asks, okay, what the relationship between eclipses and times of judgment? Eclipse is not a good thing, right? In general, right? In general, certainly a solar eclipse is a bad omen. Definitely a bad omen for the entire year, right? Or let's say better for the entire world. Lunar eclipse, bad omen for Jews because we go according to the lunar calendar. So basically, is the question whether it's bad for the whole world or just bad for the Jews, right? Essentially, that is the that's the question. Some say that a solar eclipse is bad for non-Jews, also bad for non-Jews. Yeah, and lunar eclipses are only for Jews, right? Because we go according to the Jewish calendar, right? Where non-Jewish calendar goes according to the sun. Now, the 4 things Gemara says very interesting. Cause a solar eclipse. Deceased head judge who's eulogized insufficiently. Betrothed women gets attacked, not saved. Homosexual relations. Twin brothers killed at the same time. Right? So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, let me see what else. Someone here says they don't judge you by race. It's about observing someone doesn't fit in. Okay. Someone who wants to convert, you look non-Jewish, it's one thing. Let's say you're white or whatever. So you don't have, a Jewish nose or, etc. Person comes in, Asian, black, Hispanic, he'll stick out more. I'm not saying the person shouldn't convert because of it. Right? But they will stick out more. I don't think there's any question. And I'm saying it's fair they should. Right? Let's make that clear. Right? I don't want to be misquoted here. They shouldn't, regardless of how a person looks. They can be 10 times more righteous than you. It's because they have different skin color or whatever. It matters what people do. But you see, human nature is human nature. So people, anyone who's not like us or looks like us in a certain way, they'll be looked in a different way. Is it right? No. It's not right. Right? Not gonna say it's right by any stretch. Now, someone makes that choice. They have a different skin color. Okay. That's their choice. I will tell people straight out, you might have issues. You very well may have issues. Again, I'm not saying it's right or not. I'm saying it's wrong, essentially. Yeah, Jewish community is what it is. There can be racism, there can be discrimination. It exists. Should be eradicated. I agree. No one's not going to say it doesn't exist. Now, someone makes a choice. They make a conscious choice. It's what they want, and whatever. Some people say, I'm very comfortable in the skin I've had all my life. Okay. They know people are human. They know people may say things and this and that, even though it may be wrong. Okay. Don't judge Jews by Judaism. Right? Because who says what they do is right? It shouldn't be. There shouldn't be discrimination. Does it exist? Again, it exists. No one's saying it's right. It's a reality. Yeah, it should be changed. Okay? Things don't change overnight. That's another thing, people make mistakes. We should be doing this, saying that, yeah, we should be doing a lot of things. It's protocol. Yeah, things do not happen overnight. They don't change overnight. That's what a person has to realize. And someone tell me, yeah, I got to change this, got to change that. This isn't right. That's not right. You're an outsider looking in. There are things that need to be changed, no question. How it gets changed, when it gets changed, what level it gets changed, different issue. Too many people are quick to speak. I see it all the time. All the time. I'm not saying necessarily what they're saying is wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. That, we're going to condone it. We're not condoning it. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, there are things that need to change. Does that mean it's going to change? Doesn't mean it. Right? Or it's not going to be as fast as you think. There are people who jump up and down and this and that, should be this, should be that. Yeah, it should be a lot of things. So what? So what? Doesn't matter. People are very quick to say things without knowing the facts. Not only without knowing the facts, without knowing anything. Without knowing anything about the community and how the community works. Now, does that mean things shouldn't change? I'm not saying that. If it needs to be changed, okay. But there are people out there. You're not in the inn. You don't know what goes on. Doesn't matter what you think. Doesn't matter what's going on. You don't know what goes on in the Jewish community, period. Never lived in a Jewish community. Don't know the mores of a Jewish community. But people are very quick to say, this has to change. Again, if it needs to change, it needs to change. That's not being denied. Yeah. But if you have a learning system, let's say, since the time of the Vilna Gaon, 250 years ago or more, and that's been passed down generation to generation. Now, it's not easy for everybody, but the system is what it is. You want to come in now and say we're going to change that system after 350 years, 250 years? Some people might not fit in. They might have it difficult. This, that. People say, the system's not for everyone. It doesn't work out for everybody. There are a lot of different types of schools passing down the same information, some more, some less, whatever it is. Some people need to see things visually, other people otherwise. But you don't throw out the whole system, for goodness sakes. This is a system that's worked for, and this is a system we have. Doesn't mean it doesn't have to be improved? No. Doesn't mean it's perfect? No. But this is a system that consistently produces rabbinic scholars for the next generation. People have delusions. That's what I'm going to call it, delusions. They have delusions of what they think should be. Say too many prayers, people can't concentrate, you're just saying the words. Yeah, prayer is something the Gemara says always needs to be strengthened. I can speak about this for the next 2 hours, I'm not going to. Yeah, needs to be strengthened. Is it better, the Gemara says, to say, or the rabbinic authority says, it's better to say more with less intention or less with more intention? Obviously, less with more intention. So this will cut down the service. What are you going to cut out? A lot of these prayers, were written by the men of the Great Assembly. Anyone know who was part of the men of the Great Assembly? Yeah, they're great rabbis, also prophets. Yeah, so I'll tell you what my simple explanation is. If they're going to tell me, and some of them are prophets, literal prophets, speaking the word of God, everyone agrees they're prophets. Very good. If they're going to tell me, say this at this time and stand up and bow, and I'm going to question that? Why would I question that? They know a lot better than me. Yeah, but if you say too much and say too fast, you don't have so much time, kids won't be into it. And you got to train people, okay? This is a lifelong thing. Prayer is a hard thing every day. For a guy, 3 times a day, you got to work at it. More of my Hasidic side here coming out. You got to live it. You got to breathe it. You got to learn it. Like anything else, you got to learn it. But the Gemara says for a reason. The Gemara says for a reason. Why do you think it's one of the things that needs to be strengthened? Because it's hard. That's why it needs to be strengthened. It's hard. So you got to work at it. Not change it. Work at it. So if a person can't say all the prayers, what they need to say, you say what you can say. You do the best you can do. See, when you start saying, and we want to change this, this and that, you sound like a Reformed Jew or a conservative Jew. They're not much different. Started out differently, but they're not much different. We'll take out this, we'll take out that. That has nothing to do with intention or not intention. We're going to take out sacrifice. Don't believe in sacrifice. That's cruelty to animals. We don't want to go back to sacrifice. We're going to take out the service of the temple. We don't want to offend anybody going back to Jerusalem. Yeah, it's one of the first things the Reform movement took out. We're happy being in Berlin. You think it's a coincidence? All costs happen there. Right? So what do you change? How much do you change? So so you get, you should get to synagogue early. You should be able to say what you need to say at the right time. In the morning, it's harder. You got a lot more to say. But don't you have to learn the meaning of the prayers? Yes. Don't you say the prayers 3 times a day? Yes. Different prayers on Shabbos? Yes. Don't you have to work at it? Of course you have to work at it. What are you going to do? What do you do? Oh, we don't need to see these Psalms. You know who King David was? You utter buffoon. You know who King David was? Everybody holds what he said in the book of Tehillim and the book of Psalms is all divine inspiration. Low level prophecy. Yeah. Divine inspiration. You want to mess with what he said? No, I'm just going to take it out. I'm not saying everybody says it. I've heard it. I've heard the argument. I'll tell you the argument is nauseating. It's nauseating because you think you know who David HaMelech is. You think you know better, than the prophets themselves. There are people who think, well, I would do this and I would do that. You know what? No one gives a rat's tail what you think. No offense. No one gives a stinking rat's tail what anyone thinks. Not what I think, not what my Rabbi thinks, not what anybody thinks. You know why? Because God said it, we do it, we listen to rabbis, that's it. It's not about my opinion. This is one of the harder things. You want to be a Jew? Yeah. Doesn't mean you can't ask questions. We love questions. We want questions. Your opinion? Who cares what you think? You think God cares what I think? I don't really care what I think. I gotta keep what he says to the best of my ability. God doesn't give one rat's tail with any of us. He doesn't need any of us either. So if someone were to say, I'm going to fix the system that's already been set up, who are you? It's just ironic. Someone's like, never learned, can't read Hebrew, doesn't know anything. Doesn't know anything. I'm gonna solve the world's problems. I'm gonna solve Judaism's problems. I know better. Maybe they have good ideas. Okay. Maybe. You're talking about a whole system from within. A whole system from within. You're gonna come out from the outside, can't read Hebrew. You're gonna tell me that's how you're gonna change it. But we need to change it. We need to make it better. And and I know better coming from nothing. I'm not saying the person doesn't have good ideas. Could have good ideas. Yeah, where's the humility here? This is something everyone coming from the outside, even a secular Jew becoming religious. You gotta have humility. You want to ask questions with humility. We love questions. That's the whole purpose of Judaism, to ask questions. Get to the truth, understand what it means. But with humility. Not with a chip on your shoulder. Not thinking I know better and I can fix the system because even if I don't know anything. It's a bit much. How do you observe Tu B'Shvat properly? Some people have some sort of Seder, like a Passover Seder in a certain way. They have all the fruits of the land of Israel. They make blessings, say other things. It's a lost thing today, unless you're either Sephardic or Hasidic. Among the Ashkenazim, you eat a few things from the land of Israel. You'll say blessings. Think about what it means a little bit, and that's it. Is that proper observance? If you have someone who's really into it, no. Right? It's not proper observance according to them. Yeah, but it's a day in the year, okay? It's birthday of the trees. And days are gonna start to get longer. Winter is, not gonna be over, but work our way through. Whatever a person does is good. Let's just say that. Is there proper observance? You can't say that. You can't ask that question. What's proper? Yeah. If someone who really gets into it and, doing all kinds of things and making these blessings, they see what I do, they're going to say you're a guy. You're like a non-Jew. You don't do anything for it. Okay? In the Ashkenazic world, it's not a big thing. Definitely not a big thing. By Hasidim, by Breslov, by others, it's a much bigger thing. Okay? So how do you want to best observe it? The way you think you should. Person wants to be more into it, there's nothing wrong with it. Definitely nothing wrong with it. I'm Ashkenazic. It's never been a big thing. Right? In the yeshiva world, it's never been a big thing. Again, you get some fruits from the land of Israel. You make blessings, very good. That's about it. Other people make a bigger lavish thing about it. What's better? I'm not answering that. So what a person feels they need to get out of it. That's what I would answer. Someone asked about prayer for the dead. If they claim we don't speak to the dead, if we claim we don't pray, then we speak to them. Sounds like a cop-out. Could be. Right? Could be. Again, is there to have somebody intervene, right, in their merits, that's a different issue. Right? Communicating with the dead, these things should just be totally forgotten. Totally forgotten. Right? We're not communicating with the dead. We're not doing sorcery. We're not doing any of this stuff. The only question where this comes up is if you go to a graveyard and you pray by a righteous person. That's it. That's it. I know. I see a lot of people get bent out of shape and it's idolatry. Yeah, it is. If they're worshiping them. Forget about speaking to them. We can use a lot of different language to say the exact same thing. Say the exact same thing. I'm going to tell you, it's an irrelevant thing. It's an irrelevant thing. And some things just, Okay, you heard about it. It's what some people do. Good. So somebody asked, is what Lubavitch does idolatry? If it is, yeah, it is. If they're worshiping someone from the dead, that's idolatry. Speaking to the dead, doing it. Like, forget all these things. All these things are relevant to everyday life. What they do is their problem. You're asking the question. I'm answering the question. Okay. More than that, it's irrelevant to most people's lives. Is there a prayer to help against the evil eye? Yes, there's a prayer. I don't know if it's an art scroll or not. There is a prayer. There are certain verses. I think there are 10 verses altogether that a person can say, that a person can one second, that a person can say, one second here. There are certain things that a person can say, certain verses that guard against. That definitely guard against. Are they in an art scroll prayer book? Not sure. I'll have to check. I'll definitely have to check. If someone is worried about it, they should say them every day. You can even say them on Shabbos. You're even allowed to say them on Shabbos. Somebody here asks, I'm not sure I heard the verses of this week's parsha about manna, right? Yeah, there's a custom on Tuesday, Parshas B'Shalach, to read what we call Parshas Saman. Parshas Saman is about the manna that Jewish people ate in the desert when they were in the desert, and a person who says it's supposed to be good segula for livelihood. So some people say it every day, even on Shabbos. Well, they say that if you say it, on the Tuesday of Parshas B'Shalach, it's special time, special auspicious time. For that, it's the entire thing. Parshas Haman is. Let me just see what the exact verses are. Parshas Arman. Let me see. Let me see to get the exact verses. One second. Let me see here one second. Yeah, Parshas Haman starts from Exodus chapter 16, verse 4, and goes to and it goes to the end of chapter 16. So basically, chapter 16, verse 4 to the end of the chapter. Right? That's the source. That's the source for Parshas Haman. One of the reasons why it's considered a school for Parnassa. I'm not going to go into it, but there is what to be said definitely for that. That you should read it. Yeah, people have the custom read it every day. Read it every day. It's a good thing for Parnassa, for livelihood. But again, special time on Tuesday, right? The Tuesday of Parshas B'Shalach, which is today, right? Which is definitely, which is definitely today to, for them. Someone asks, how much of Chabad believes the Rebbe is Mashiach? A significant amount. It's not a small amount. It's definitely not a small amount. Someone asked, 21 soldiers dead today, right? After a week of talks of peace. Is that a message from Hashem? It's not good. Definitely not good. 21 soldiers died. 2 buildings collapsed. I don't know if they said it was they're going to blow it up, and then an RPG hit it, and 21 soldiers killed. Anytime soldiers are killed, yeah, it's definitely bad. What's the sign? I'll tell you one thing. Over 500 soldiers killed. Rabbi said that, one of the reasons this happened, is because, the army is idolatry in this country. A lot of people think, if it wasn't for the army, so strong, this and that, everyone's going to come and invade, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's heresy. That for sure is heresy. So what did God do? He broke them. He broke the army because of what happened on October 7th. Yeah, it's a tragic thing. You could definitely, but at the end of the day, and anytime people die, it's bad. This is war, right? This is war. 21 in one shot. The way it happened is, it's whatever. It's judgment. It's not, we're not living in simple times. No question. How to keep Tu B'Shvat? I already mentioned that. Again, if you eat certain nuts from the land of Israel, that you make the blessing. You think about the trees or whatever, and that's it. That's what I would tell you. Very simple. What someone asked, what's the most difficult part of converting? Moving to a community, probably. That and family issues, right? Livelihood issues, family issues. But that's probably the biggest thing. It's moving, right? But basically, most people in this process, what happens is they get isolated. And when you get isolated, there's no one around you. No one's doing the same thing as you. You are by yourself. I mean, Judaism is not so much fun by yourself. So therefore, that could be the most depressing, part of it altogether. But I would think the single biggest problem is actually moving to a community. That's probably the biggest problem. Can a Jew in training work for a secular Jew? Isn't religious very much, but more secular, even curses. You gotta be careful who you work for. Work for anybody comes with problems. Whether it's Jew, Jew or non-Jew. Yeah, work with a secular Jew, they got bad character traits and this and that. Pick your poison. Plenty of non-Jews have bad character traits also, right? So they don't make it any better. I'm not gonna say, that's not surprising because they don't have a Torah or whatever, right? But secular Jews, yeah, it's, is it? Can you work for them? Why not? Work for anybody if you want. You can even work for an idolater, as long as it's not for idolatry, right? And so it's not a question to work for. The question is the work environment good or not, right? It's not a question, can you work for them? You could, right? An idolatry you can work for, as long as you're not involved in idolatry. You guys say, how can you work for an idolater? Look what they do, what can they say, and all that. Sure. So it's like you do any better? They're not any better, right? So as long as you're not involved in idolatry, so this one's bad, that one's bad. So, who says you can't work for either one, right? Again, it depends how bad it is. But if they're really involved in idolatry, that you can't do for sure. That you can't do, for sure. And isn't there practically sleep overnight in the graveyard in order to speak to the dead? Nobody does that. Nobody does that. There is such a thing. You're right. There is such a thing. The person wants to imbibe more impurity. by sleeping in the graveyard. Might actually hear, what dead people are saying. Could be. Yeah, people doing it. I don't know. I didn't take a survey, but yeah, it's not a good thing to do. Definitely not a good thing to do. Is it permitted? No. Sorcery not permitted for any reason. Right? Even saying God's name, I mentioned this, I'm not going to go into it. I spoke about it. That even using God's name to save millions of people, you can't do. That could cost you your life, even to save people. Right? So sorcery, I'd say the same thing. Right? No difference. You do it in training, read Tanya. All right, this will be the last question. I will say, Tanya is a very hard book to go through. A lot of it is steeped in Kabbalah and Hasidus. And it's a very, very hard book to go through. Can you do it? I'm not saying you can't. Will you get anything out of it? It depends how someone explains it, waters it down, to a person's level. I know in Chabad, that's a big thing. They learn Tanya. Okay. They'll teach anybody Tanya. Okay. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of it because I think it's a very hard book to go through. Very, very hard book to go through. Can they learn it? Yeah. We get anything out of it? Yeah, they might get something out of it. Maybe yes, maybe no. That's what I would say. There's a star on the moon over a mosque idolatry. Mosque in general is not idolatry. We don't hold it's idolatry. Some people are going to say, yeah, it is. We don't hold that. Regardless, it's Hidushei Das, made up religion, but it's not idolatry. Does a star on the moon over a mosque mean idolatry? I don't think so. And if so, do we pray to destroy the house of idolatry when passing by? Yeah. Yeah. The Rambam goes so far to stay in the laws of idolatry, you got a mitzvah to destroy any idolatrous praise. Walk by a church, you got a mitzvah to blow it up. Anywhere. Problem is you can't do it because you get caught. If you can do it and you don't get caught, yeah, you blow the whole place up. Not a problem, big mitzvah to do so even outside of Israel. Right? All the more so inside of Israel. Practically speaking, you can't do it. You can't do it. Wow, a lot of good questions here. I got to stop here. I do this every Tuesday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There you can send me there you can send me emails on, there you can see videos on Torah Portion of the Week, Q&As, Ethics of Our Fathers, controversial issues. Send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBI CHAMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. We're having a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, depending on